What is up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY, as always sponsored by the Bet Parks app. Line back up to 7.5 points. So 7.5 down to 7, back up to 7.5 points right there on the Bet Parks app. We have not spent a lot of time on the Eagles this week. A lot of other things were going on. But now it is Friday, and is a football Friday with the Dallas Cowboys in the wings on Sunday. It's interesting because I feel like on a regular week during another season, this game would have had a bigger buildup, but flying under the radar a little bit because of the injuries with the Dallas Cowboys. And honestly, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if this game takes on the same kind of magnitude with kind of how pathetic the Cowboys are, even though they win regular season games year after year. So Tyler and I were talking about this before the show. This was a conversation that I had with Jack Fritz for many, many years on WIP. Tyler and Jack are about the same age. The Cowboys-Eagles rivalry is so generational. So Dallas week, which is like, it's Dallas week. I don't think it's the same thing depending on how old you are or when you grew up as an Eagle fan. So, like with me, and I like to tell the story of my first memories in life being the 1980 World Series, Phillies winning the World Series. Bob Boone bobbles the ball, Pete Rose catches it. That's probably the thing I remember from that World Series, and the horses going out on the field when they were about to clinch. That's what I remember most from the World Series, my first memories in life. I also do remember the Eagles a couple months later winning the NFC Championship game against the Cowboys. I remember that. And then losing in the Super Bowl. I remember my parents took me to a Super Bowl party with them. And I remember being over somebody's house and watching the Eagles lose. So it's amazing the first things you remember in life. And one of those things were the Eagles. But I remember how big a deal it was to beat the Cowboys in 1980. At the NFC Championship game, it's something that the team hadn't gotten over the hump. Dick Vermeil came in the mid-'70s, and the Eagles were a laughingstock in the NFL. And right away, he put the bullseye on the Cowboys, America's team, as the team that that's the team we have to beat. That's the team that we're putting the target on. That's the team we have to beat. And I don't think it took a lot of prodding from Eagles fans, and I'm sure they hated the Cowboys for many years before that. But still, it became a huge thing in Philadelphia, much more so than in Dallas, because Dallas always viewed Washington as their main rival. And then what I remember, and my first real memory of the hatred that you have for the Cowboys, was the fake kneel by Randall Cunningham in 1987, the strike season, where Buddy was not happy with the way the Cowboys were handling the strike, and they had veteran players that were playing against the scabs and everything else. And by the way, coming up, we'll do it after headlines. I have my three favorite or best old school Eagles-Cowboys memories. So there's not going to be a Lido return here or anything like that. These are old school. These are going to be before 2000. My three favorite memories, and we have video to go with it. But like I remember the fake kneel down by Randall, and then they get a pass interference call, and then they go in, they score a touchdown, and they win. They run up the score, and Tom Landry just runs off the field, and Buddy's like, pretty much giving them the finger. And it was like, wow, like I hate the Cowboys. They deserve that. And then it went into the Bounty Bowl, and Buddy made it such a huge rivalry, and it was so natural for him. It was fun. It was amazing. And then the Cowboys would start winning Super Bowls when I was in high school. And the rat Cowboy leeches, bandwagon fans that were out and about for everybody in the starter jacket era of the 90s. My own high school had a whole pack, like a club of Dallas Cowboy fans that used to wear their starter jackets and used to yell, "How about them Cowboys?" down the hallway. Into, Andy Reid, and really the Cowboys have been good, but they haven't won anything, right? They've had good years. They've had good stretches. They've had a lot of talent. Tony Romo won a lot of games, but they haven't won squat. And the Cowboys, for the most part, are now relevant because A, they're the Cowboys, but B, they're relevant for the wrong reasons. They're not winning anything. No one takes them seriously as a Super Bowl contender. They haven't for years. But depending on your age is depending on how you feel about this rivalry. And I'll admit, when I was in my late teens, early 20s at Veterans Stadium, this was a game where it felt like, hey, like we're going to go fight everybody. And the Eagles are going to win because we have the best home field advantage and we're not losing to the Cowboys. It was like we used to walk in and out of the stadium, up the long ramps. Remember the long ramps of Veterans Stadium where you would walk up and then you have to get to the 700 level, walk up. Dallas sucks. Dallas sucks. The whole time going in. And then if they won the game, leaving. And it was an energy that's really hard to describe. But like, so that's me as an Eagle fan. I am very much an early 80s. I became a diehard Eagle fan in the mid to late 80s under Buddy Ryan and that defense and Randall Cunningham. And I lived the Cowboys being good. And now as we sit here and this organization is one of the best in football, the Eagles are in an elite NFL organization and the Cowboys are run by a guy in his 80s who looks like he's about to totally lose it. And guess what? Jerry Jones, until he can't do it or he's removed, guess what? Jerry Jones is probably going to be 88 years old doing the same thing he's doing right now. And everybody's going to be kind of rolling their eyes and waiting for him to be no longer doing that. So it's a good spot for Eagles fans to be in right now because once Jerry's gone, then if they bring somebody else in that can actually knows what they're doing, then it might change things. But Cowboys rivalry is interesting. I think it's difficult to have the hate for a team when you don't take them seriously. Now, the Cowboys will beat the Eagles on any given game that they play during a regular season. Don't get me wrong. The Cowboys have done very well against the Eagles over the years. I don't know if they've matched up well against the Cowboys in recent years. But again, nobody takes them seriously as a real contender. They know that they're going to blow it in the playoffs. So even if they win 11, 12 games in the regular season, the Cowboys aren't winning squat. And everybody knows it. Tyler Zulli, who is so let's do this real time, Tyler. So you probably your first memories of the Eagles are Donovan and Andy and those good teams of the 2000s, and the Cowboys were never good.
I was going to ask you, what do you think is an appropriate age to kind of, when you're really young, you're just like, go Eagles, Eagles are the best, blah, blah, blah. Like, to me, it's like 7, 8, 9 is when you start to like really get fundamental understanding of the game. And okay, the Eagles aren't going to be good every year and teams you don't like will be good. So to me, if it's 7, if it's 8, it's 2000, 2001, 2002 for me, right? I was born in 93. So 7, 8, 9 was 2000, 2001, 2002. And I was just going back to look at some of those games to kind of get an understanding of why I don't have that hatred. And don't get me wrong. There's not like me saying, oh, I like the Cowboys. I dislike the Cowboys very, very much. But I have always stood on the fact that I think my rival, my biggest hatred is the Giants. And the reason is because I think probably 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime, right? I was born after the 93 Super Bowl for the Cowboys, so it was starting to, that they did win another one, but it was after that, they haven't made an NFC Championship game since 95. But 2000, the Eagles win 41-14 and a 16-13 overtime win. 2001, 36-3 and 40-18. 2002, 27-3 and 44-13. 2004, 49-21, and then a 12-7 win in the game, if I remember correctly, didn't really matter too much. My point being is the Eagles, when I was growing up, were 13-8 against the Cowboys in the 2000s. They dominated the Cowboys in my formative sports years. The Giants, meanwhile, I don't know if you remember this game. You remember the lead the Eagles lost with the Amani Toomer game? Amani Toomer and Plaxico Barris with like 3 receiving touchdowns.
Those teams are so annoying.
Those type of teams really used to get under my skin.
Yeah.
And then they go and they win the Super Bowl in 2007. They win the Super Bowl in 2011 as I'm getting into, elementary school and high school, and I'm really kind of getting invested in this team. The Giants, to me, are my rival. They're the team that I look at and go, and I know that they've been terrible the last couple of years, but they're the team that I look at and go, I hate this team with every fiber of my being.
Yeah, those teams were better and more annoying than any Cowboys teams that we've had, right? You mentioned Amani Toomer, who I still can't stand him, but Ike Hilliard,
Jeremy Shockey.
Jeremy Shockey was extremely annoying. And then you had like Jason Sehorn, who was the great white hope at cornerback, right? So I got a couple Giant friend fans that had the Sehorn, got the Sehorn jersey on, and he made that great interception in the playoff game. And by the way, the Giants owned the Eagles in the early parts of the 2000s, and then they flipped it, and then they owned the Giants after that. But yeah, like what if Tyler's 30, people in their early 30s, what's the heartbreaking Eagles-Cowboys game that you're like, damn it, that one still hurts today?
The only one that I can think of, I think it might have been the 2009 year. So they played Dallas. I think it was week 17. They played Dallas. Winner wins the division and gets the home playoff game. They go down to Dallas and they lay an egg and they lose to Dallas. And then they have to come back the next week. And I think they have to go to Dallas again.
The rock star hero or guitar hero game for Donovan. Donovan came out in the tunnel from the tunnel and he was going like,
yeah, exactly. And then they go down to Dallas. And it felt like to me, they had the exact same game plan in consecutive weeks, and Dallas said, "We're beating you." And
yeah, they were.
I remember bunch formations, and that Dallas was stacking the box, and Donovan had no time to throw, and the receivers weren't getting much separation, and that game to me was like, okay, maybe this is starting to be the downturn of Andy Reid a little bit.
Well, that was the end of Donovan. That was the last game Donovan plays in Eagles.
And that one sticks with me a little bit, but you're right. I have 44-6. I have beating Quincy Carter.
You
and
have
Drew
bad,
Bledsoe.
You have and Romo was good, but you had a bunch of bad coaches and bad quarterbacks in there.
Yeah, for sure. And so to me, like the one, like the Kerry Collins team gets me,
that team.
And then on
Jim
top
Fossell.
of that, then all of the Eli teams get me. And it's just like that to me is the one that they hurt me more than Dallas did, and so I have like a vitriol for the Giants that I think that the generation before me has for Dallas.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. No, and you understand it and you see it. At some point, the Cowboys are going to be good again. If this Cowboys team, I find Dak Prescott extremely irritating. If they could ever win anything, then you would have it. But they can't, and we know it, right? So coming up, we'll go over it more, and we'll talk about the game too, obviously, because we have a lot of thoughts on the game as well. But my 3 favorite old school Eagles-Cowboys moments. And this is going to be a little bit of a history lesson for you younger Eagles fans out there, like Tyler. I finally become the old guy.
You the elder statesman in the room now.
I finally become the old guy that can talk about the old school games and kind of give you a lesson.
Rome brings up a good one, the King Dunlap game where O.C. Umenyiora had. It just proves my point further with the Giants.
Yeah, you got a contract based
he had
off it.
7 sacks or something. The team had 7 sacks or 8 sacks or something like that.
But I thought that was wasn't that was another tackle? Wasn't it Dunlap and then somebody else? Who was it?
Was it Stacey Andrews too?
No, it was. God damn it, I don't know. I have to Google it real fast. Sacks, Eagles. It was 6 sacks in a game, and they recorded 12 sacks in all. 12 sacks. Jesus.
Oh, it was Winston Justice.
Winston Justice.
Yes.
There it is.
Thank you, Rome. Appreciate you.
Yes, Winston Justice. Yes, yeah, Winston Justice. And the thing that was infuriating about that was that it's like, well, give them help. If you have to put a tight end over there every time, put a tight end over there every time. Yeah, that was crazy. All right, well, so let's do this because there's a lot to talk about in Philly sports and what happened last night as well. So after headlines, we will get to my 3 favorite old school moments. Actually, Tyler, before that, let's do this. Let's talk about Central City Toyota. You heard Uncle Jamie yesterday. The Uncle Jamie college football locks of the week. And he was 3-0 last week. And I'm telling you, I love 2 of his 3. I'm not so sure about the other one. I love the 2 of the 3. And you know what else I love? Central City Toyota in the heart of University City, 55 years on Chestnut Street. I was just there on Wednesday. Their service department works so damn fast. I was enjoying myself. not having to go home and take care of the baby. I was enjoying myself on my laptop, doing some editing, sending a couple emails, had my AirPods in, really enjoying it. People watching a little bit, and they come out like, you're done. 4 tires, front end alignment, boom. Like, no, you're done. We're all set. It's right up there. Go ahead. Here's your key. Like, no. I don't want to leave yet. But Central City Toyota, if you need service on your car, you work in Center City, you work in the area, right? You can drop your car off, take a shuttle into work, and then take the shuttle back up. Also, they provide pickup and delivery service on an appointment basis. So make an appointment, centralcitytoyota.com. They will come to wherever your car is, pick it up, take it to the dealership, service it, drop it back off. You don't have to do anything. You can literally get your car serviced and you didn't even know what happened, right? And if you're looking to upgrade your ride, Central City Toyota has an amazing selection of certified vehicles. They even have cars under $12,000, and they have a one-price approach, no pricing games. Everything is transparent and easy. They know once you're a customer at Central City Toyota, you're going to come back for your next car and your next car and your next car, and you're going to get service there because they're that good. No pricing games. So check him out. Amazing selection of certified vehicles. And it's my Uncle Jamie. He's been there. Is it 30 years now he's been there? Check him out. Go in, say, hey, I'm here for Uncle Jamie. Largest service and parts dealership in the city of Philadelphia. CentralCityToyota.com to check out their inventory and everything else that they do. All right, Bet Parks. Parks Casino. Join Mike Quick, Seth Joyner, Mark Zumoff, Joe Conklin, The Cuz, and yours truly. That's right. We are all a part of the Bet Parks lineup, the official sportsbook and online casino of the show, the John Marks Show, Philly with John Marks, and the only sportsbook and online casino app that we would use and recommend. So, as I said earlier, Birds are 7.5-point favorites. It's went up a half a tick in a day against Dallas. Over-under 43 points. Last night, the Flyers got the win. They were plus 160 last night. You could have cashed in on an underdog. Flyers get the win last night, and Baltimore did not cover. They were 6-point favorites last night. Cincinnati, if you're in that, that's yours. So for Sunday or whatever else, you can bet more than the score in pro football. You can bet player TDs, rushing, passing, sacks, interceptions, everything. Get a parlay in there as well. So join us on the Bet Park Sportsbook and online casino app. And if you like games, live dealer, blackjack, craps, roulette, and more. And right now, new users, if you download the Bet Parks online casino app and sportsbook, up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. The casino bonus must be wagered. See betparks.com for details. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Michigan, Maryland, or Ohio. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, a lot to get to here with headlines this morning. Here's Tyler. Tyler, good morning.
Yeah, there was a lot to talk about. You brought up the Flyers last night, so we'll do that in just 1 second. But before we do that, let me tell you about our friends over at Glad Hair Restoration who sponsor our headlines because they will help you during every stage of hair loss. And you will receive a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment because bald is now optional. And if you want to improve how you look and how you feel about yourself, Glad Hair has the right treatment for you. Head on over to gladhairmctr.com or call 610-980-4000 to get started. So you bring up the Flyers. They do win last night. They win in a shootout. They get the 2-1 final score in the shootout. Ivan Fedotov got the start for the Flyers after a brief stint with an injury and question marks around if he could truly serve as an NHL goaltender. He was excellent last night. 22 saves on 23 shots, a 95 save percentage. He became just the second Flyers goalie this season, John, through the first 14 games. Not named, or second time this season, where the goaltender not named Sam Ersson had a 900 or better save percentage in any individual game. It's only happened twice in the games that Ersson has not started. So the Flyers win and snap a small losing streak. The Lightning now have a 4-game losing streak after losing to the Flyers last night. Owen Tippett gets the lone regulation goal for the Flyers. And then, of course, they win the shootout.
Yeah.
But
get those wins.
But probably the bigger news in this one, the Flyers win this game, and they're now 5-8-1. The bigger news is that first-round pick and rookie sensation Matvei Michkov was healthy scratched yesterday by John Tortorella, and I know it had social media up in arms, and There were some people that were staunchly defending the move because Michkov's time on the ice had dwindled over the last couple of days. He's kind of really struggled in 5-on-5 action. Others, I think, look at it and go, you have to let the kid play through some struggles. He's 19. He's going to have gaps in his game because he's still a kid and it's his first year in the NHL. He's still transitioning to the league as a pro. Curious your thoughts on the move by John Tortorella to healthy scratch the probably the biggest name on the Flyers right now in Matvei Michkov.
Yeah, I think the natural reaction is, hey, the kid's 19. He learns by being out on the ice. What are you doing? And just to be honest, I don't know the history of Tortorella and young players. I am very much back in on the Flyers for the first time this year than I've been in a really long time. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know all the ins and outs of everything with Tortorella. I was reading Charlie O'Connor on allphly.com, and I'm telling you, you're not going to get better hockey than Bill and Charlie and Broad Street Hockey and the podcast and everything else that they do. But he's writing about it, and he says that this really shouldn't come as much of a surprise. He hasn't been playing a lot 5-on-5. They've been putting him out there for the power play, and this isn't defense. Like, my initial reaction was he must not be playing good defense, or he's not putting effort out there. And Charlie writes this. This is a quote from Tortorella talking about Michkov. He says, there's going to be some major struggles. We expect that. Where I'm going to have to teach, and in that teaching moment, I'm not going to tell you what that's all about, but if we keep seeing the same mistake and he's just totally not concentrating on a certain part of the game, and I've been very honest with him about that, he's going to miss some ice, and he watched the game. So this is where it's like, okay, you're going to sit, you're going to watch the game, and then does he put him back out there on Saturday when they play? Probably, right? And then you want to see a response. You want to see him not making the same mistakes that they've been talking about. This kid's 19 years old. So it's not like that anybody shouldn't think that he's going to make mistakes. I have no problem with Tortorella sitting him and saying, hey, and saying this is the teaching point. I mean, ultimately, it's how he responds to it and if he makes improvements in his game. Michkov's going to be here a long time. He's going to obviously be here a lot longer than Tortorella. But I mean, this is an important part of his career where he can get the right coaching to make him improve, to make him that much better of a coach. So I support the decision.
So numerically speaking, Michkov's numbers are good. 10 points in 13 games so far. He's obviously just playing on just under a point per game basis, which is just sensational for a 19-year-old kid. But it is to be pointed out that he has 1 point on the 5-on-5 this year, and this is by the Athletic who brought this portion up. It ties him for 16th on the Flyers in points in 5-on-5 with defenseman Emile Andre and Nick Delorier, who have each only played 6 games this year. So right. I get it. I am for good quality teaching moments. I also think that let me rephrase that. I hope it's not sending a message of you have a very small margin of error before I sit you down. Like, can the two be different? Like, can you say 1 and 2 and they're not? They don't have to. They could be exclusive to each other.
I think it's a great point, and it's less about what happened last night. It's more about going forward, right? Like, is this where he gives them a shift on Saturday and he doesn't like what he sees and he pulls him again and then he's another healthy scratch?
Because that to me is problematic.
You can't do that. No, you can't do that. Managing this player, he is so young and so talented. Managing him and knowing what you can do and what you can't do is important. And that's where I don't know if I trust Tortorella. And I see some people in the chat saying he's making it all about him. I think that's a fair criticism because we've seen him sit guys, scratch guys. By the way, he does this with everybody. So it's not like that people don't look at some of these moves. This is kind of commonplace for him. He's done this quite a bit. Let's see how he reacts to it, because if there's a negative reaction, this is how you also get fired. If your strategy and how you're dealing with this player isn't working and he's regressing, because the skill's there. Tortorella's being paid so he can take that even at 19 years old and build on it. So interesting move. I love it. This is something I can dig my teeth into and I can talk about, because this is a big thing for the Flyers to have a player of this level so young. So,
all right. So last night, we'll move on from the Flyers. They'll be back at it real quick. Let me double check. Let me get it correctly. I believe it is tomorrow against Florida. Yes, tomorrow night against Florida, 6:00.
Yes.
Puck drop. And of course, by the way, you can catch all the pre and post game action with Charlie and Bill and JP and Kelly and whomever else may be on the show here on PHLY. So shameless plug for us. Last week, I tweeted out how Thursday night football sucks and it shouldn't be a thing anymore because the product is just not very good. And the NFL responded with a 69-point game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals were up 21-7 in this one at one point, but the Ravens rattle off 28 of the last 41 points to win 35-34. Let's go through some of the numbers really quickly. Lamar Jackson, 290 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. Tylan Wallace, Oklahoma State product from a few years ago, 115 on 3 catches and a touchdown. Mark Andrews scored. Rashad Bateman scored. Nelson Aguilar caught a touchdown on his lone reception. But the player of the night, even in a loss, probably has to go to Jamar Chase. 11 catches, 264 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Joe Burrow threw for 428 and 4 scores. So the two quarterbacks combined for over 800 yards of passing offense and, over 700 passing yards of total offense and 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Ravens win this one 35-34. They improved to 7-3. The Bengals are now 4-6.
Yeah, a tremendous fourth quarter. You had a 84-yard touchdown pass to Wallace, Tylan Wallace. And then they follow that up. Baltimore does. Mark Andrews, they march down the field and they take the lead 28-21. Mark Andrews from Lamar Jackson. And then one play, the very next play, 70 yards to Jamar Chase. Game is tied up. The Ravens then go down the field. Rashad Bateman touchdown from Lamar Jackson, 35-28. And then less than 2 minutes to go. They did it in about a minute. They go down, boom, touchdown. The decision, and we talked about this with Tampa. Tampa elected not to go for 2 and to go for the tie, and they lost in overtime. Well, the Bengals went for the win with the 2-point conversion and did not get the conversion. Incomplete. And if you saw the play, Burrow was it was roughing the passer. They didn't call it.
For sure.
And there was holding on Gesicki as well. So there should have for sure been another shot at it. The roughing the passer thing's interesting because it didn't affect the play. So if it didn't affect the play, if you don't throw the flag on it, even though it was a flag, clearly it hit him in the head, it's like it didn't affect the play. The holding call affected the play. I can't believe they didn't call it, especially in that situation.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's a fair assessment. Like you're going to get calls wrong, and it's part of the human nature of refereeing. And of course, you want to protect all the players, but there's an extra level of protection and precaution with the quarterbacks. If it didn't, if it does directly impact the play versus does it happen after the play, that's a hard balance.
Yeah.
Because
still should have called
theoretically,
it, but
you should just call the penalty, right?
Right.
Contact to the head. You get, what do you get? The 1.5 kind of leeway before it becomes a 2-step penalty. It was like 2.5, 3 steps before he laid into him.
And the hit in the face mask.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that I get why people are frustrated, even if it doesn't directly impact the play.
Yeah, for sure. I would have liked to see another try at the conversion. Really tough loss for the Bengals because at 4-6, they're a better team than their record. And they've had a couple of hard luck losses, and they've played really good teams so far. I mean, think about it. Their whole division is good. Well, the Browns aren't, but you know what I mean. Like your Steelers and the Ravens, they've never lost to the Ravens twice. They had to play the Eagles. They played Kansas City. So they played Washington on national TV. So this is a good team. AFC's wide open. The Bengals could still very much go on a run here. They finished with 9 wins. I think that a team with 9 wins is going to get into the playoffs in the AFC. But that was you had said this where like the previous week was what? The Jets and somebody the previous Thursday night.
Yeah, it was a bad game.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't watch a lick of it. I went to sleep. So if Thursday Night Football, you want to give me a bad one, and I'm kind of tired that day.
You know what? It was Jets-Texans.
Yeah, and I had no interest in watching
it.
The Texans are doing nothing for me this year. I'm disappointed in them. But like by Thursday night, and I was exhausted last night, but I wanted to watch the game. And that beginning of the second half got me going because Cincinnati scores. They're up 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry goes for a touchdown. Great game last night for sure. And the Ravens, Lamar Jackson's unbelievable. He just needs to win in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I mean he's been incredible, and there's a very fair case to be made that he is right back in the MVP conversation again.
For sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, isn't he a front runner right now for the MVP? I haven't looked at the odds, and it
wouldn't surprise me. Another 4 touchdowns last night.
He had a perfect game last week. He had a perfect quarterback rating last week.
It's been really, really good.
He's good.
One last thing to note: the Sixers back at it. Final game of the West Coast trip tonight. They'll take on the 4-4 Lakers, trying to get at least one game on this 3-game West Coast trip. They are 1-6. Tip off is 10 o'clock tonight. No Tyrese Maxey, who's going to miss not substantial time, but not unsubstantial time with a hamstring injury. So the Sixers are down now. Their 2 best players. It's going to be the Paul George show, I guess.
I think he's good. I mean, we don't know the injury. We're not doctors, but he's missing at least 2 weeks. I would say 3, which is tough.
Yeah, Sham said a couple of weeks. The ruled out with a hamstring injury. There, multiple weeks. There's a lot of
4 weeks.
A lot of vague wording. I'm thinking probably. Yeah, I mean multiple. Obviously multiple in the.
Ain't gonna be a week. He's not back by the time Embiid.
No, multiple in the purest sense of the word means at least 2, right? So you're talking 2, probably closer to 3 or 4.
And it seemed on the higher end, just based on watching him after the game, how he kind of limped off.
And hamstrings suck.
Yep.
I mean, you saw a bunch of dudes, the Phillies dealt with hamstring injuries this year. And Kyle Schwarber bounced back quickly, but Trey Turner didn't.
Right. Yep. It's all about how significant they are. Lakers 8.5-point favorites tonight against the Sixers right there on the BetParks app.
Might think about taking it.
I can tell you this, I will not be awake watching that game tonight. Devon and Kyle and Derek and whoever, Mike, they're going to have to, they have to do whatever. I'm out. They can do the heavy lifting.
Do you think anybody's got any skills? Can somebody juggle bowling pins or something? It's the only thing that's going to keep people awake for a 10 o'clock game tonight.
Yeah, unless you're a night owl, which I am. I'm certainly not. All right, thank you very much, Tyler. We're gonna have to probably pause here in the middle of it, but let's start it right now. So I am very much old school. I had Eagles season tickets from mid-90s until 2003, 2002, 2001, I don't know. Yeah, 2002. And 700 level. So I didn't know that you weren't supposed to act like that, how behavior was at Veterans Stadium. And then you realize oh my God, I can't believe that's what happened. And I can't tell you how many games that I went to that there was, when I talk about fighting and these fights you see in some of the stadiums right now, which by the way are brutal. You get bad fights, but there would just be so many of them, especially during the Cowboys-Eagles games. And this was during a period of time where the Cowboys had either won Super Bowls or were coming off Super Bowls, and their dumb fans didn't realize that it was over. So, and they were still good, and the Eagles weren't all that good, or they were a playoff team. Because if you remember in all those years, in the 80s, when the Cowboys got good in the early 90s, Eagles still had good teams. They just weren't as good as the Cowboys. So they would beat them in the regular season, on a regular basis. But then when it got to the playoffs, or then when they faced each other in the playoffs, the Eagles would never get a win. But some of the things that I saw in Veterans Stadium, and Tyler, I'm not kidding when I say this, probably the number one, there's 2 memories I have of an Eagle-Cowboy game at Veterans Stadium. Number one is when WIP used to have, so WYSP had the broadcast. So that was so you would have the official pregame broadcast with WYSP, which would be somewhere else. And that was a more sophisticated, they're
more buttoned up.
Yes, exactly. They're not doing crazy stuff. The WIP pregame show, which was at Veterans Stadium, and they had the tent. One of the years, and I don't know if it was 95 or it was right around that time, they had a blow up doll or blow up cowboy thing, and somebody had a chainsaw and was chainsawing the blow up, the cowboy blow up, and it got caught. The chainsaw got caught in the blow up material and started going like this. The chainsaw turned on the guy and hit the guy that had literally cut him to where he was shooting blood everywhere. I saw it. I was there. I didn't have a front row spot to it, but you knew exactly something went wrong, and then people went crazy. I was in the bathroom at Veterans Stadium, and for everybody out there that had been to Eagles games at Veterans Stadium, if you had to go to the bathroom, Tyler, when I say that this would take a quarter to a quarter and a half of your life, it would take a quarter of the game to take a leak.
Oh, the vet bathrooms were disgusting at the end.
They were not only disgusting, there weren't enough of them. So when they constructed Veterans Stadium in the early 70s, they didn't say, hey, we shouldn't have one toilet for every 10,000 people, or not 10,000 people, but you know what I mean. If you had to go to the bathroom, you were waiting a really, really long time. So I remember waiting in a line for a urinal, and I'm getting relatively close. Maybe I'm like 7 or 8 people away from the urinal. And by the way, for somebody who has a weak bladder that doesn't enjoy that type of atmosphere for taking a leak, very, very difficult when you have people breathing down your throat and you have guys' junk out literally right next to you, and you have to pee so bad, it's hard to get the stream going right away. Oh, my God, friggin' nightmares from those days. But a lot was made of people peeing in the sinks at Veterans Stadium during Eagles games. A lot of that was because the wait time was so long. But I remember there was a Cowboys fan in the bathroom, which is the last place you want to be during an Eagles game at Veterans Stadium. He was a dwarf. So he was a little person, and he was wearing his Cowboys. No, he wasn't. Excuse me. There was a regular Cowboy fan that was barking, and there was a little person that was in the bathroom in line to my left. And he starts yelling back at this Cowboy fan, and the Cowboy fan starts yelling back at him. Before you know it, this little person is like he was coming across the middle to take a wide receiver out when he's not looking. He speared him into a sink where people were peeing in the sink. And the guy went flying into the sink, and then people started like kicking and hitting the Cowboys fan on the ground. And that's a true story, and I can't believe that this was something that wasn't even that big of a deal. I was just kind of watching, and then I went and I took a leak because you would see these things all the time. But that's what an Eagles-Cowboys game looked like in the late 80s and early 90s and mid to late 90s at Veterans Stadium. So I have 3 favorite old-school Eagles moments that we'll get to right after this. All right? TrueMark Financial. I was just, I did something with the app, the mobile app, TrueMark Financial. Couldn't figure it out. Normally, I'm not bad with techie stuff. Couldn't figure it out. So I emailed Mary Ellen. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? She said, just call my office. It's easier for me to explain. Went in, called her. She took 10 seconds in the line, picking up the kids for school. Boom, got it taken care of. Good as new. But that's the kind of service you get at TrueMark Financial. And I know there's a lot of good banks that are out there, and they give good customer service. And I've been a banker at different banks before, whatever. But you don't get the same feel that you get at TrueMark. And I know Donna, who helped set up my business checking account, Mary Ellen, who's the branch manager, they've worked together at 16 years at the same branch. You know what that means? If you've been going in and doing business, you know the same faces. You get that same great service and smile and friendliness. When you go in there, you're asking about, how's the kid doing? Or, oh, did your daughter graduated from high school? Oh, my God, I remember when she was little. Like, isn't that the kind of service you want? I know you do a lot of mobile banking, and maybe you don't go into the bank a lot, but like, it's a good feeling knowing that there's people that you know and that know you. That's TrueMark Financial. From their mobile app to their financial mortgage specialist, if you need a personal checking account, a business checking like I had when I went in and set it up, trust me, TrueMark is the way to go. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more info, visit TrueMark.com. TrueMark.com. All right, let's listen. We got to talk about our good friends at Ace. Ace is the place when you can't do anything for yourself, right? Ace Hardware Home Services. I'm having minor plumbing issues at home. It's because too much toilet paper is being put in toilets. And it's like, you got to stop putting so much toilet paper in the toilet. You're clogging the toilet. Luckily, I haven't had to call anybody yet. I just get the plunger, and then boom, it takes care of it. But what happens when that doesn't work and you don't know what else to do? Who do you call? Ace Hardware Home Services. That's who you call. Just go to the website, acehardwarehomeservices.com. They have somebody for you for plumbing, electrical, equipment installation. You get a new refrigerator and they drop it off, and the person says, "No, I can't. I'm not installing that for you. See, I'm gone." What do you do? I'm telling you, Ace Hardware Home Services is the way to go. Emergency services. What happens on Sunday when your toilet's overflowing, when your heat stops working? What happens? Here's what happens. You're screwed unless you get a hold of our good friends at Ace Hardware Home Services. So no matter what you're looking for, they're there for you. Air conditioning issue in the summer, heater during the winter, residential maintenance, installation, home repair services, free estimates on everything they do. Ace Hardware Home Services, with the power of the Ace brand, strives to be the best, most trusted provider of home preservation services. Check them out, acehardwarehomeservices.com. All right, Tyler, before we roll on my three old schools here, if I said to you, what is don't think about it, what's the first memory you think of when it comes to the Eagles?
The Eagles in general? Or
Eagles-Cowboys.
Oh, okay, 44-6.
It's as far as a modern moment, it's probably my one or two.
Yeah, I mean, so because I know what videos you have that we're going to show and talk about. I either A, I wasn't alive, or B, I was
way before
very,
your time.
very young.
Yeah.
So I don't have that recollection that you do. To me, 44-6 is the one. Like if you said to me, pick a game or pick a moment, that's it. And that to me is the big one.
All right, well, let's get through them here, Tyler. And number one is the fake kneel. So this is Sunday, October 25th. It's 2 weeks after the Eagles and the Cowboys had played a game. Now, they played earlier in the season, or they played 2 weeks before, with replacement players. So the players went on strike after the second week, and they were out for 3 weeks, I believe. Not every team was unified across the board, and a lot of players crossed the picket line. The Dallas Cowboy players in particular crossed the picket line. You had Tony Dorsett, their starting quarterback Danny White, Randy White, Ed Too Tall Jones. You had all pro players that had crossed the picket line and were playing for the Cowboys. Meanwhile, no Eagles crossed the picket line, and they were playing with what were called as scabs, just guys off the street that maybe played college ball or whatever. They were starting for the Eagles. All pros were starting for the Cowboys.
Basically, if you've seen the movie The Replacements, you know what you're looking at.
Scab, yes, exactly. Yes, a good modern day. Well, that Replacements is pretty old now too. But anyway, yeah, so it wasn't a fair fight. So the Cowboys kind of run up the score. Tony Dorsett had a second half touchdown. The Eagles are throwing guys out there that won't be on an NFL roster as soon as the strike's over, and the Cowboys are playing all their great players. So there was an unwritten rule among coaches, and Buddy Ryan was at the top of, I'm against the owners, this is ridiculous. But like, you weren't supposed to run trick plays, and you weren't supposed to run up the score, and you weren't supposed to be playing your regular players at length against these replacement players, the scabs. And the Cowboys did quite the opposite. They're running trick plays or whatever, and this really pissed Buddy Ryan off. So the game is decided. The Cowboys can't stop the clock. The Eagles are kneeling on it with like 16 seconds. You could start to roll the video here, Tyler. And you're at Veterans Stadium. It's a 2-possession game.
They built confidence and closeness during that period, and a victory here today over Dallas certainly will only improve that. Now Cunningham's going to throw it to Quick, and it is a flag down on the incompletion in the end zone. 2 seconds remain on the clock. Franks has had the coverage for the Cowboys, and Ryan that day was the first team defense of those veterans, Randy White and Jones and Smirek, coming in with the Cowboys holding a commanding lead in time.
Keith Myers is going to get the hand off here.
If there wasn't bad blood before, there's going to be bad blood now.
Yep.
Fire.
And it put him up 17, and that was what Joe Theismann had said right there. That was the start of it. If there wasn't bad blood before, there's bad blood now. And Landry ends up getting fired, I think, after the following year. But that was, and that's my first real memory of, oh, wow, we hate the Cowboys, and this is what we do to the Cowboys. And Buddy Ryan was so great for the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry. So good for it. All right, so that's number one. Number two, so there was the Bounty Bowl. 1989. The Cowboys are terrible. They have... They have Troy Aikman. He's the number 1 overall pick. And this is the first year of Jimmy Johnson. They're a bad football team. They're a rebuilding football team. Meanwhile, the Eagles had a veteran dominating defense. They had Randall Cunningham. Like, they were set to win, which they never did, but they were set up to win a Super Bowl. And they bludgeoned the Cowboys. Now, it's the Bounty Bowl because Luis Zendejas, their kicker, Dallas's kicker, was the Eagles kicker earlier in the season, and he missed a lot of field goals, and Buddy cut him. And Zendejas yapped his way out the door after he was cut. I think he talked smack on Buddy and talked smack on the Eagles. So there was a bounty placed on Luis Zendejas, the kicker. So here's Jimmy Johnson talking about it on Fox. So like Jesse Smalls is the player that did it. So Luis Zendejas kicks the ball off. Jesse Smalls, who was a linebacker on special teams, right on the kickoff, makes a beeline for Luis Zendejas and pretty much doesn't knock him out, but he comes close to knocking him out. So here's Jimmy Johnson explaining it right here.
Great rivalry games. When I coached the Cowboys, my favorite game was facing Buddy Ryan and the Eagles. Buddy had one of the great defenses of all time, Reggie White, Jerome Brown. We were terrible my first season in Dallas. Terrible. But for some reason, the Eagles put a bounty on our kicker, Luis Zendejas. To this day, I still have no idea why they wanted to hurt a 5'6", 160-pound kicker. So there we were, Thanksgiving Day game in Dallas. Sure enough, first kickoff, 2 Eagles went after Zendejas. He cowered down, got flipped in the air, and staggered to the wrong sideline. Kickers. I was so furious, I went looking for Buddy after the game.
The wrong sideline. He was trying to confront Buddy for getting hit. So he knew it was coming. Someone told him before the game that they're coming after you. He didn't stagger to the wrong sideline. He was actually going to the sideline to yell at Buddy. But go ahead, keep it up.
But he waddled that big old fat butt of his into the locker room. Bounty Bowl 2 came a couple of weeks later. Buddy told the papers he resented my fat comment. Made a crack about being no East Carolinas in the NFL and a dig at me, implying I beat a bunch of cupcake teams when I was coaching in college. I fired back at him. Yes, there are East Carolinas in the NFL. Unfortunately, we are East Carolina. Come game day, the Philly fans let me know how they felt. That's when they pelted me with snowballs. Terry was doing the game. They fired a few snowballs at him, too. I turned it around in 91 when we realized in order to beat a great defensive team, you have to eliminate the negative plays, sacks, and turnovers. In the end, I had the last laugh. Buddy's Eagles never won a playoff game, and we ended up winning 2 Super Bowls. For the Eagles and Cowboys today, the stakes could be the same.
Jimmy, you talk about that infamous...
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it was. He did get the last laugh because Buddy never did win a playoff game. But that second Bounty Bowl, and then there was the Pork Chop Bowl. It was an unbelievable time to be an Eagles fan with the Cowboys. But that second Bounty Bowl was famously Ed Rendell, who I think he might have been the district attorney at the time before he was the mayor. He admitted to throwing snowballs on the field as well. So there was a ton of snow that happened, and it wasn't all taken out of Veterans Stadium. So how do you think Veterans Stadium was reacting at a Cowboys game with a bunch of snow that was turning into ice? Well, they were throwing snowballs the whole game, and Jimmy Johnson, oh man, he barely made it out there alive. Terry Bradshaw, if you watch the broadcast, and you can find it on YouTube, I think it was Vern Lundquist and Terry Bradshaw, and might have been Collinsworth, but they were firing snowballs in the booth, and Terry was they were ducking the snowballs in the television booth that game. All right, so number 3, and this is a little bit of a longer video, so we're going to play it. This is the 4th and 1 game. So this is 1995. The Eagles were a good team. The Cowboys won a Super Bowl that year. Or did they not win that year? And that might have been the Niners that year. But the Cowboys were still a very good football team. 4th and 1. This is December 10th, 1995. So it's going to pick up from, and you'll notice right away, look at the spot. The referees were trying to give this game to Dallas. So,
by the way, the 95 season which would have been the 96 Super Bowl. Dallas did win. They beat Pittsburgh 27-17.
Dallas won it. 94 was because there was a game.
Yes, 94, the 49ers crushed the Chargers.
It was right. That's right. Because in 94, the Eagles crushed the 49ers. It was Charlie Gardner had an unbelievable game as a rookie. And that was, everybody wanted George Seifert fired after that game. And they ended up winning the Super Bowl. It was their pivot point of the season. So 95, the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. So it's 3rd down. They complete a pass. They get, when I say a favorable spot, probably like a yard of where it should have been spotted. It should have been 4th and 2. It should have been 4th and 1. They get a great spot. So take a look. This is Pat Summerall and John Madden. Look at the spot.
He's saying he was up and not backwards. He was up.
Ray Rhodes wanted his corners to be physical. They are physical. Watch Mark Mickton, it's their ball.
Barry Switzer is saying the 2-minute warning.
Barry Switzer ought to be saying that he shouldn't have called that play. Great defense. The Eagles were all up there.
There is nothing there. Now let's see.
Before the ball was snapped.
But he was great there. And Pat Summerall's
Official here, he's going to stop.
He's saying no play.
So they do it again.
I know, but he has to say it before the ball snapped. After the ball is snapped, it doesn't make any difference when the 2 minutes come up.
There you go. Well, they do it again. Was that poor editing? Did I not?
No, I'm just going to try to advance it a little bit for you. I just can't do it while we're watching it.
Gotcha. So that's Ed Hockley way back in 1995. So then we get to it and listen to Madden's reaction afterwards. And it was, again, you're inside your own 30. This isn't the NFL of 2024 where you tush push it and you go for it on fourth down. You didn't go for it on fourth down back then. If it's 4th and 1 and you're at your own 50-yard line or 40, even if you're at the other team's 40-yard line, you're not likely to go for it. It was not the same thing with it. But they did. They decided to go for it, and they ran the same freaking play. And Merrill has a great call to it. And I like hearing the Madden Summerall call because it's not what we're used to with Merrill. And the Merrill call is kind of hard to find. But like this is awesome. And
Red Smith gets the carry. He doesn't make.
Shouldn't even be close to a first down.
And Dallas saying he was up.
So this is just a poor editing job. I mean, regardless, I've butchered this right here, but he goes for it again. They don't get it. And Madden's reaction is, this is unbelievable. Like, he couldn't believe that Barry Switzer went for it. So you know what happened? Eagles got the ball under 2 minutes to play. They're in their own territory. They don't really advance the ball. They kick a field goal and they win 20-17. Oh my God, that was so. That's like they're my 3 favorite old school Eagles-Cowboys memories. There you go. As far as the game, the line's up to 7.5. I worry that this is. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. I worry that this is a look-ahead game, and you have the Commanders on Thursday night at home. Cowboys don't have Dak Prescott. They've been struggling. And here's the other thing. The Eagles are really flying high right now. And Saquon Barkley in that hurdle, and even though they almost lost at the end of the game to the Jags, there's still a feeling that the Eagles are back. The offense is back. Jalen Hurts is back. Saquon Barkley hasn't went anywhere. AJ's fine. Devontae, we'll see what happens with this hamstring injury. Dallas Goedert might be back this week. Like the Eagles, the defense is great. Like the Eagles are back to being dominant. And the NFL has a weird way of humbling you sometimes. And you wonder this week if this is one of these instances. Tyler, I'll ask you, is this one of these games that you trust the Eagles, that they're going to go down to Dallas? And the Cowboys have not played well this year, even with Dak Prescott. The defense isn't good. The offense can't run the ball. They're on a below average team this year. And now they don't have their starting quarterback. Is this a situation where you say, no, they're going down to Dallas and they're going to beat the Cowboys decisively and they're going to cover the spread, and that's that?
I think so. I think the line is, what'd you say? It's up to 7.5 now?
7.5.
And you brought it up. The thing that would concern me if I were a Cowboys fan is this team hasn't been able to run the football all year. 656 rushing yards as a team. They've really not, we talked about it yesterday, they've not been able to replace the productivity of Zeke from 2 years ago. Rico Dowdle's been their bell cow, but hasn't done much. Zeke doesn't travel with the team a couple weeks ago. Dalvin Cook is the other guy in the room. They're averaging just 3.8 yards a carry. And if you can't run the football and you're going without your starting quarterback, I think that really is going to allow the Eagles front seven to kind of tee off on Cooper Rush a little bit. The pass rush has been much better over the last couple of weeks for the Eagles. I think it continues to be much better for the Eagles. I do think the Eagles cover the spread. I would take them with the 7.5. I think they're going to win this game by double digits.
Yeah. God, I want to be there. That's where I want to be.
I think if I said 27-17, I would feel really good about that, and I might even take it a step further.
Last week, I picked the Jags, at least with the point spread, because I thought there would be like a late backdoor touchdown. I thought the Eagles would control the game, which they did for the first almost three quarters.
First
right?
half, for sure.
First half, and then because the Jags didn't get an offensive play in Eagles territory until like 8 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the third quarter. So that felt like a laugher. Cooper Rush has done well as the starting quarterback of the Cowboys when he's had to come in for Dak. He had 5 games in 2022. He was 4-1.
He did it with a much better offensive line and a run game that was successful.
That's the difference. They can't run the ball. And this Eagles defense has a different look to it right now. So I do worry about the look ahead. I do worry about the backup quarterback syndrome, which is, hey, we got to step our game up. This season's slipping away. Everybody's got to play better because we have the backup in. But something's off with this team. So I agree with you. I'm taking the Eagles 30-20, and they'll cover the spread. And I think it's probably a little bit easier of a game. But also, I'm not totally there yet. I would probably say I'm 60-40, and that's why I say the Eagles cover the game. I still worry that this is like Nick Sirianni, the biggest thing, and we talk about the 2-point conversions and going for it on fourth down and managing the game and all the things that he has control over since he's not calling offensive plays. Well, the other thing that he has control over is setting the tone for how his team comes out and plays. And on the road against Dallas, you would expect the team to come out kind of like I'm coming out and I'm going for the kill right away. Like I'm ready to go. I'm not coming in thinking, we're going to beat them. They stink. Like I want to come out and I want to put them out of their misery early. So if the team does this, I'm going to give Nick Sirianni credit. If the team comes out a little bit flat and lackadaisical, that goes directly on the head coach. That better not happen this week. And I can't tell you that I trust that that's going to happen because I've seen too many times the team come out thinking that they're going to beat them because they're the Eagles and they're more talented, and the Cowboys aren't because of not having Dak Prescott and whatever. So I do worry about that, but 60-40 for the cover. All right, so we'll get to our picks coming up here in a second. By the way, we haven't had Tyler's picks. Was it just last week? Did you have your picks the week before?
It was 2 weeks. Yeah, I missed 2 weeks of picks. So you're like 8 games. You have like 8 more games picked than I do. I don't know how JP did in my absence, but
I don't know either. Well, that shouldn't count against.
You have like 8 games. You have like 8 games in hand.
So my Eagles record is.
I think you're 6-2.
I thought I only had 1 loss, but I don't. My 20. Hold on.
Well, you took the Eagles to lose a game they won.
Yeah, 1 game. That was the Giants game. I think I was right. See, I don't know if this. Because I thought it was over 500 last week. We're gonna have to double check this. But anyway, here are my picks for this week. The Bills over the Colts. The Colts are cooked in Indianapolis. Joe Flacco's in there, and he's probably a better. And shout out to the diehards, by the way, out there. Thank you very much, diehards. They're probably better off with Joe Flacco, but that doesn't mean that they're good enough with Joe Flacco. And the Bills, this may be a look ahead game, but they've pretty much taken care of every team they should have this year. So I'm going to take the Bills -4. Vikings and the Jags. I actually like this at 4.5 in Jacksonville. And then it comes out yesterday that Trevor Lawrence has an injured shoulder and he's not going to play. And this might be more significant. He might need shoulder surgery. But that line jumped all the way up to 7. Mac Jones is your starter now for Jacksonville. I don't care. The Vikings have lost a couple games here. They have a dominant defense. Mac Jones stinks. I'm going to take I'll stay with the pick. I'll take Minnesota -7. And the Bears. Bears haven't been good the last couple of weeks. Caleb Williams hasn't been good the last couple of weeks. New England has been competitive. Drake May looks like he's going to be a really good player, but they lack on talent, and May is still very much learning on the job. Patriots are one of the worst teams in football. I'll take the Bears -6, and I'll take the Eagles to cover. So I'll take the Eagles 20-10 over the Cowboys. Tyler, everybody's waiting because you're 14-7 on the season.
Yeah, it was my first losing week in a while. The last time I picked, and I got beat by a couple of hooks. I took the Packers -5.5, and they won by 5. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I took the Rams -5.5, and they won by 5. And I took the Packers -3.5, and they won by 3. So a couple of bad hooks for me. But I'm going to start with the game that you picked as well because I am also taking the Buffalo Bills in this one. The Colts have not scored more than 20 points in a game in over a month. The last time they did it was against the Jags, a game in which they lost 37-34. The Colts have won a game 20-17. They won a game 16-10. That was beating the Titans and the Tua-less Dolphins. They've lost to the Texans 23-20 and lost to the Vikings 21-13. Their defense has played well. They've given up, like I said, a fairly minimal amount of points over the last 4 weeks or so. It's less than 80 points in the last 4 weeks, but they only have the 2 wins to show for it. I think the Bills are kind of starting to hum a little bit, and they're still an undervalued 7-2 team, despite the fact that they are 5 games over 500. I'm going to take the Bills in this one. My second game, I am going to go against a team that the Colts play twice a year because of Will Levis stunk with the Titans, and now Mason Rudolph stinks with the Titans. The Titans are a bad football team, and the Chargers have an identity. They're 5-3 now. They like to run the ball. They play good defense, and they've figured something out. They've alleviated some of the pressure off of Justin Herbert, and it's been a really good model for them over the last couple of weeks. I am going to take the LA Chargers. This is a big line for a Chargers team that didn't look particularly strong in the first couple of weeks in the year, but have played much better football as of late. I'm going to take the LA Chargers -7 over the Tennessee Titans.
I looked at that one.
And the last game I'm going to take, and you're probably going to go, Tyler, this team again. Well, yeah, much like I said about the Washington Commanders, I am going to take the Detroit Lions until the wheels fall off. They're -3.5 on the road against the Houston Texans. The Texans, despite a 6-3 record, John, have scored 201 points this year. They've given up 200 points this year. They are 3 games above 500 with a +1 point differential. The Lions have been rolling as of late. They win a big game against Minnesota. They've crushed Dallas over the last couple of weeks, and I think they continue to roll. I am going to take the Detroit Lions -3.5 on the road. I'll be honest with you. I think they might win this game by 7 or 8.
All right, I looked at that one as well. Yeah, Detroit is the darling of the NFC right now. Not even close. They roll, man. They are really, really talented. They can run. Jared Goff's as efficient as any quarterback out there right now. Him and Lamar, really, talk about efficiency. Jared Goff doesn't need to throw the ball 40, 45 times a game. He can throw 20 times. They can run the ball with 2 running backs.
2 really good running backs.
Man, yep. and they balance each other well. Gibbs is a stud. Montgomery.
And they went and acquired Zadarius Smith because they knew they needed an edge because of losing Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, he's not Aiden Hutchinson, but he's better than the players that they were hoping to bank on. This is a really good football team right now.
It is, and as an Eagle fan, I'm happy that we're only in the beginning of November, and this isn't the beginning of January because they're rolling right now. All right, shout out to everybody that's in the chat on YouTube. If you're watching this not live and you're watching it later, thank you. But 8 o'clock every morning we go live, and our mad chatters are amazing. We appreciate them getting involved in the show. And as we get going here, we can start getting more involved, the chatters more involved, and we can maybe have a segment where they're giving their opinions on things because, listen, they're like almost like the callers to a sports radio show or our chatters. So shout out to you out there watching every morning on YouTube or watching on demand. It's available all the time. Search PHLY Sports in YouTube. Also on podcast. If you're listening to the audio version podcast, Tyler right now is already getting it ready. It's posted a couple minutes at the end of the show after 9 o'clock. So if you're watching on YouTube, you say, hey, I'd love to listen sometimes when I can't watch on YouTube. You can listen to the audio podcast. Just search Philly with John Marks or PHLY to find that. Follow us on social media. Follow me at John Marks Media, JONMARKS Media. Slide into my DMs. Say hello. Email me, johnmarksmedia@gmail.com. And we will be back on Monday, 8 a.m. live, hopefully after a big Eagles win. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.